When you think of voices in wrestling who challenge the norm, Bully Ray is always going to be at the top of that list. The two-time WWE Hall of Famer and co-host of Busted Open Radio has never been afraid to speak his mind, even if that means going against the grain. That's what makes him such a compelling analyst, and a valuable voice in a sea of echo chambers. This past Monday on Raw, the WWE Universe witnessed a highly anticipated main event, Gunther vs. Jey Uso for the World Heavyweight Championship. Gunther, fresh off losing the title to USO at WrestleMania 41, was looking for redemption. And redemption he got. Gunther defeated Jey Uso to reclaim the gold, reminding everyone why he's considered one of the best pure wrestlers on the planet. For most fans and wrestling critics, that outcome was the story. The headlines were simple: Gunther regains title. But Bully Ray saw something deeper. Something most people didn't. Because for Bully, it wasn't just about who won, it was about how they got there. On the following day's edition of Busted Open Radio, Bully took the opportunity to talk about what really made that match special. It wasn't just the drama, the near falls, or the intensity. It was the psychology, the layout, the nuance. He brought up a phrase he and his legendary tag team partner, Devon Dudley, used to live by during their time running the Team 3D Wrestling Academy: old school rules, new school tools. That phrase isn't just catchy, it's a philosophy. And it's one that Gunther and Jey Uso brought to life in their main event battle. "What you got last night was the best of both worlds," Bully said. And he wasn't exaggerating. In a wrestling world often accused of being too fast, too spot-heavy, too rehearsed, Gunther and USO gave fans a masterclass in blending the psychology of the past with the spectacle of the present. According to Bully, it's that old-school foundation that allows the modern elements to really shine. The drama isn't in the flips or the superkicks. It's in the pacing, the escalation, the way a crowd is brought along on an emotional journey. Gunther, to Bully's mind, is one of the few talents today who understands that balance intuitively. He's not just a wrestler, he's a storyteller. And that's not a skill you can teach overnight. It's something earned through experience, instinct, and a deep respect for the art form. Bully went so far as to say that if he were producing matches in WWE today, and Gunther was involved, he'd let the Austrian take the lead. "I would leave the majority of it in Gunther's hands," he said. "That's how much confidence I have in him." That's a huge statement, coming from someone who's worked with, produced, and wrestled with some of the best in the world. For Bully to put that level of trust in Gunther speaks volumes. But what is it about Gunther that makes him so reliable? According to Bully, it's his command of timing, his awareness of the crowd, his ability to slow a match down without losing momentum, and then ramp it up at just the right moment. It's a rare skill, and it's even rarer in today's wrestling landscape, where the temptation is always to go faster, hit harder, do more. But Gunther knows when less is more. And so does Jey Uso. Bully praised both men for their ability to sell, not just physically, but emotionally. Every blow mattered. Every expression told a story. The match wasn't just a contest, it was a chapter in an ongoing saga. In fact, Bully pointed out that the real success of that match was in how earned it all felt. Gunther's victory didn't come across as forced or cheap. It came across as inevitable, and yet still thrilling. Because the psychology was tight. The logic held. Gunther had learned from his loss at WrestleMania, and this was the payoff. That's storytelling. That's wrestling done right. And it's a kind of storytelling that Bully feels is often missing from today's product. Too often, matches are treated like exhibitions, strings of moves, disconnected from purpose. But when psychology is at the heart of a match, it becomes unforgettable. Bully didn't just heap praise on Gunther, though. He also took time to acknowledge Jey Uso's evolution. Over the past year, Jey has transitioned from one of the most consistent tag team competitors into a believable singles main eventer. That transition isn't easy, but Jey has done it. Not just by changing his look or his entrance music, but by understanding what makes a moment matter. And on Monday, he and Gunther created a moment that felt bigger than just a match. It was the kind of match that reminds you why wrestling can be art. Bully also spoke about how the structure of the match allowed fans to breathe. In an era where many matches feel rushed, this one had a rhythm. It had silence, it had escalation, and it had stakes. He used the term, ebb and flow, to describe how the action built and dipped, never overwhelming the audience but never losing them either. That's something that can't be taught in a crash course. That's veteran-level psychology. And that's why Bully Ray believes in Gunther. Because every time he steps into the ring, he carries the old school with him. He's a throwback to an era where the match mattered more than the momentary pop. But he's not stuck in the past either. Gunther adapts. He evolves. He blends the past with the present in a way that feels seamless. That's why the match with Jey Uso worked so well. Because both men brought their best. Because both men respected the moment. And because they trusted the story. Bully didn't shy away from pointing out that many wrestlers today don't think that way. They think in GIFs, in highlight reels, in what looks good on social media. But Gunther and Jey think in arcs, in emotion, in payoff, and that's the kind of thinking Bully Ray believes needs to return to the forefront of wrestling. He also said that if young wrestlers were smart, they'd study this match, not just to copy the moves but to understand why they worked. Why the crowd cared, why the finish landed. Because wrestling isn't just about athleticism. It's about storytelling. And storytelling is built on logic, emotion, and pacing. Gunther gets that. So does Jey Uso. And if more wrestlers followed that model, Bully thinks the business would be better off. He called it a clinic. Not because it had 100 near falls or shocking swerves, but because it made sense. Every choice had weight. Every moment had purpose. Bully ended his commentary with a reminder. The greatest matches in history weren't the flashiest. They were the ones that told the best story. And on Monday